Night had fallen too fast. Not the gentle kind that drapes the hills in purple and silver. This night dropped like judgment. The wind scraped across the desert floor, dragging sand like whispers of the dead. Fires flickered low between the tents, their light trembling as though afraid to exist. Somewhere in the darkness, a lamb cried once, then went silent, and a boy woke up screaming. He didn't know why. His chest burned. His heart hammered as if something unseen had passed over him. Something heavy, something watching. He crawled to the tent entrance and pushed the flap aside. All across the camp, doors were opening. Men stepping out. Mothers clutching children. No one spoke. They all felt it. Something was coming. Not an army. Not a storm. Something older. Something holy. Something that did not negotiate. The air itself felt divided, like heaven was leaning close to earth. And somewhere in the center of the camp, an old man stood alone before a wooden staff buried in the sand. His name was Moses. And tonight, blood would decide who lived and who died. Because this was not merely an escape, not merely deliverance. This was a covenant, and covenant always costs blood. The Lord had said it with terrifying clarity. When I see the blood, I will pass over you. Exodus 12, verse 13. Not prayers, not ancestry, not strength. Blood, only blood. The boy watched as his father emerged from the shadows carrying a basin. Thick red liquid sloshed inside. The smell hit first. Iron, life, death. His father's hands shook. They were shepherds, not killers. Yet tonight, every household had slain a lamb. Perfect, without blemish. Young, innocent. The boy's little sister still cried for the animal she had named. She didn't understand why it had to die. No one could explain it gently. Because some truths cannot be softened. Some truths cut. The father dipped a bundle of hyssop into the basin. His breath came uneven. What if, the boy whispered, what if we don't do it right? His father didn't answer immediately. He looked toward the darkness beyond the camp, toward Egypt, toward the palaces where slaves had once been beaten, toward the memories of chains. Then he said quietly, then death comes in. The hyssop brushed the doorpost. Red streaks. Left side, right side, across the top beam. A frame of blood. Like the doorway itself had been wounded. The boy stared. It didn't look like protection. It looked like a mark of guilt. Like they were the criminals. Like they deserved the judgment too. And that was the part no one dared to say out loud. They were not innocent. They had doubts. Complained. Fears. Some had even wanted to go back to slavery. Yet God wasn't asking if they were worthy. He only asked, is there blood? Because the covenant was never built on human goodness. It was built on sacrifice. Moses moved through the camp like a shadow of destiny. Every step is heavier than the last. He remembered another night. Another child was marked for death. His own, when Pharaoh had ordered every Hebrew boy drowned. He remembered a basket, water, reeds, a mother's silent tears. Blood had spared him then too. Not lamb's blood, but another kind. The cost of faith. Now the same Pharaoh who once tried to kill him would lose a son. Power was shifting, not slowly, violently. God was overturning thrones with a whisper. I will execute judgment on all the gods of Egypt. I am the Lord. Exodus 12, verse 12. Not just people, gods. Everything Egypt trusted was about to collapse. The moon climbed higher. Midnight approached, and silence thickened. Even the insects stopped singing. The boy lay beside the door, staring at the red marks. He couldn't sleep. He didn't want to sleep. Because what if death came quietly? What if it slipped in without sound? What if the blood wasn't enough? Then, a scream, far off. Then another. Then 10. Then hundreds. A wave of terror. Egypt. The sound tore through the air like the earth itself had been stabbed. Men crying. Women wailing. Horses panicking. Doors slamming. A nation breaking. There was not a house where there was not one dead. Exodus 12, verse 30. The boy covered his ears. His mother began to pray. His father clutched the staff so tightly his knuckles turned white. But inside their tent, nothing. No shadow. No breath. No cold hand, only stillness. The destroyer passed, because blood spoke louder than judgment. And for the first time, the boy understood. The lamb didn't die because they were good. It died because they weren't. And someone had to pay. Before dawn, pounding came at the edge of the camp. Egyptian soldiers, but not with swords. With fear. Go, they shouted. Leave. All of you. Take everything. Just go. Gold was thrown at them. Jewelry. Clothes. Food. Their enemies were paying them to leave. Slaves walking out richer than their masters. That was the power shift. Not politics. Not rebellion. God himself had bent history. Overnight, chains meant nothing when heaven intervened. By sunrise, thousands moved like a living river across the sand. Children, cattle, old men carried carts. Smoke rising behind them. Egypt shrinking in the distance. Freedom tasted strange. Heavy. Unfamiliar. Some almost wanted to turn back. Because slavery was predictable. Freedom requires faith. But ahead of them, a pillar of cloud rose into the sky. Alive. Moving. Breathing. God wasn't just promising. He was leading. I will take you as my people, and I will be your God. Exodus 6 verse 7. Covenant. Not a rescue. A relationship. Not escape. Belonging. Yet none of them knew something terrifying. Freedom was only the beginning. Because the covenant doesn't end at deliverance. It demands devotion. And devotion would soon be tested in ways they could never imagine. Behind them, far beyond the horizon, another sound began to rise. Metal. Wheels. War drums. Pharaoh had changed his mind. Again, and the army of Egypt was coming. Chariots. Thousands. Fast. Merciless. The same boy turned and saw dust climbing into the sky like smoke from hell itself. And for the first time since the blood on the doorpost, he felt fear stronger than death. Because what if the covenant was only for one night? What if the promise stopped at Egypt's border? What if freedom could still be taken back? The sea stretched before them, impassable. The army thundered behind them. Trapped, nowhere to run. The boy looked at Moses, and Moses looked at heaven, and heaven was silent. For now, and the waves began to rise. The sea would not move. It roared. Black waves slammed against jagged rocks like the growl of some ancient beast guarding its territory. Spray leapt into the air and fell like cold needles on the faces of the people. The wind had shifted. Hard, violent, relentless. Sand stung their skin. Children cried. Animals bucked and strained against ropes. And everywhere, fear. Not the quiet kind. Not the silent dread of waiting. This fear was loud, raw, ugly. The kind that turns faith into accusation. The boy from the night of blood clutched his mother's garment and stared at the water. It stretched forever. No boats, no bridges, no path, just death. Behind him, thunder, metal, wheels, the unmistakable rhythm of war. Egypt, closer now, too close. He turned. Dust devoured the horizon. Then shapes emerged inside it. Chariots, rows upon rows, blades flashing, horses foaming. The ground itself trembles. The same army that had guarded palaces and crushed rebellions. The same army no slave had ever outrun. Someone screamed, "They're here." Panic erupted like fire in dry grass. People shoved. Carts overturned. Food spilled into the sand. Mothers lifted children and ran nowhere. Old men fell. Voices rose in chaos. "We're trapped. There's no way out. We should have stayed in Egypt. At least there we lived." The boy felt his father stiffen beside him. And then, anger. Hot, bitter, directed not at Pharaoh, but at Moses. The crowd surged toward the old prophet. Hands pointing, voices breaking. "Is this why you brought us out here? Were there no graves in Egypt? You said God sent you. You said we'd be free." The words struck harder than stones, because they carried betrayal. And Moses didn't defend himself. He just stood there, wind whipping his robe, sand stinging his eyes, listening to the people he loved unravel. The boy expected him to shout back, to argue, to explain. Instead, Moses closed his eyes, as if the noise wasn't the real problem, as if the real battle was somewhere deeper. Inside, Then he lifted his staff, and his voice cut through the storm. Not loud, but steady. Do not be afraid. The word seemed absurd. The army was minutes away. The sea was impossible. Death stood on both sides. Yet his voice didn't shake. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. The crowd quieted, just a little. The Egyptians you see today, you shall see again no more forever. Exodus 14 verse 13. Forever. Not tomorrow. Not later. Forever. The boy's heart pounded. How could a man speak like that with nothing but water in front of him? Then Moses said something stranger. Something that sounded almost like a whisper between heaven and earth. The Lord will fight for you. You need only be still. Exodus 14 verse 14. Fight? How? They had no swords, no shields, only children and sheep. The ground shook harder now. The first chariots were visible, close enough to see armor, close enough to hear officers shouting commands. The boy's mother began to cry quietly. His father gripped him tighter, and for one fragile second, it looked like the promise had failed, like the blood on the doorposts had only been bought one night, like the covenant had an expiration date. Then, something changed in the air, not outside, inside. The pillar, the towering cloud that had guided them all day, moved, not forward, backward. Gasps rippled through the people. The cloud slid between Israel and Egypt like a living wall, expanding, darkening, growing thicker. On one side, light, soft, golden. On the other, blackness, total, blinding. The Egyptians slowed, confused. Torches vanished inside the shadow. Horses reared. Commanders shouted. They couldn't see. He spread a cloud for a covering. Psalm 105 verse 39. God himself had stepped between predator and prey, between judgment and promise, between death and covenant. The boy stared in awe. For the first time, the fear shifted, not gone, but smaller, because something bigger had arrived. Moses walked toward the water, alone, wind tearing at his clothes, staff in hand, each step sinking into wet sand. The sea sprayed him like it was mocking him. The boy wanted to look away, because what if nothing happened? What if Moses raised the staff and the water stayed? What if faith collapsed in front of everyone? Silence swallowed the shore. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Then Moses lifted the staff, high, toward heaven, and cried out, not to the people, but to God. The next moment, the world broke. A roar exploded across the water. Not thunder, not waves. Something deeper, like creation itself, tearing open. Wind slammed sideways with supernatural force. The sea began to move. Not forward, not backward, up. Water climbed like walls rising from the earth. Higher, higher, higher. The boy stumbled back. People screamed. The ocean was standing, as if invisible hands held it in place. Two walls of water towering like mountains. In between them, mud, a path, impossible, terrifying, real. The waters were divided. Exodus 14 verse 21. No one moved, because miracles are beautiful from a distance, but terrifying up close. What if the walls collapsed? What if it crushed them all? What if this was a trap? Then Moses turned and shouted, "Go!" Still they hesitated. So he stepped first, onto the seabed, an old man walking into the heart of an ocean. The boy's father looked down at him. We follow. But what if? We follow. Faith isn't certainty. It's obedience when you're still afraid. They stepped onto the path. Mud, cold, seaweed wrapped around their ankles. Fish flopped beside their feet. Water loomed on both sides like glass cliffs filled with shadows of swimming creatures. The boy pressed close to his mother. Every crack of water made him flinch. Every gust of wind sounded like it was collapsing. Thousands moved forward, torches glowing, footsteps echoing strangely between the walls. It felt like walking through the throat of something alive. Then, behind them, shouting, Egypt had found the path. The cloud lifted. Chariots charged, straight into the sea. The boy looked back, bronze wheels racing over the mud, horses screaming. Soldiers were furious. They were still coming, even through the impossible. Fear returned, faster, closer, stronger. Because what good was a miracle if the enemy could follow? The ground trembled again. The seawall shuddered. The boy's heart pounded so hard it hurt. Moses, he whispered, what if they catch us? His father had no answer. Only one word, run. And the entire nation began to run through the center of the sea, while an army chased them through God's miracle. Behind them, lightning cracked across the sky. Thunder rolled, and something strange began happening to the Egyptian chariots. Wheels sank, axles snapped, mud thickened like glue. Horses stumbled, men shouted in panic. The Lord fights for them, someone screamed. Too late, far too late. The boy reached the far shore, collapsed on a dry sand, gasping, turning back, watching the last of his people cross, watching the army still trapped inside, watching Moses lift the staff again, higher, slower, final. The wind stopped, the walls trembled, and the sea began to fall. The boy covered his ears, because he knew what was coming. But before the water crashed down, before history changed forever, before the covenant proved itself stronger than empire, the sky split with lightning, and thunder shook the earth like the voice of God himself. And the sea hung suspended for one impossible heartbeat, as if heaven were deciding something eternal. The sea did not fall immediately. For one impossible second, time froze. Water curled overhead like glass mountains about to shatter. Lightning burned white across the sky. The boy lay on the sand, chest heaving, afraid to blink, because the entire world seemed to be holding its breath. Behind him, families cried in relief. Before him, Moses stood unmoving, staff lifted high. And between those two walls of water, Egypt, hundreds of chariots, warriors, horses, the same army that had terrorized them for generations, the same boots that had crushed their fathers' backs, the same whips that had opened their mother's skin, now trapped, like insects inside a closing fist. The boy saw something he had never seen before. Fear, not Hebrew fear, Egyptian fear. Officers shouting, drivers pulling reins, wheels buried in mud, bronze helmets glinting under lightning as men looked upward and realized, too late, this is the Lord fighting for them. Someone screamed, and then Moses lowered the staff. The sound that followed could not be described. It wasn't thunder. It wasn't windy. It was deeper, like the bones of the earth cracking, like creation itself roaring. The walls collapsed. Water slammed down with the weight of mountains. The ocean didn't splash. It was crushed. Chariots disappeared instantly. Horses vanished mid-stride. Screams swallowed in foam and darkness. The sea folded over itself again and again until nothing remained but waves. No helmets, no blades, no banners, only water, rolling, calm, as if nothing had ever happened. As the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, not so much as one of them remained. Exodus 14, verse 28. Not one. The boy waited, watching, expecting bodies, debris, something. But the sea kept its silence. Because when God erases an enemy, he doesn't leave evidence. He leaves certainty. Slowly, the wind stopped. The sky cleared. Morning light spilled across the shore. Soft, golden, gentle, like heaven itself had exhaled. The boy stood. His legs trembled, not from running, from understanding. Egypt was gone, not weakened, not retreating, gone, forever. No more whips, no more chains, no more masters, no more fear of soldiers coming at night. The greatest empire on earth had just been swallowed by water, without Israel lifting a single sword. The Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians. Exodus 14, verse 30. Saved, not assisted, not helped, saved. Some fell to their knees. Others wept openly. Men who had never cried, women who had buried children, old men who had forgotten how hope felt, now sobbing like children. The boy's father covered his face and shook. His mother lifted her hands to the sky. For the first time in their lives, they weren't running. They weren't hiding. They weren't afraid. They were free. But freedom felt heavier than chains. Because chains tell you what to do. Freedom asks who you will become. The boy looked toward Moses. waiting for instructions, orders, plans. Instead, something unexpected happened. Music, soft at first, then rising. A tambourine, then another. Women stepping forward. Miriam, Moses' sister, eyes blazing with holy fire. She lifted the instrument high and struck it. The sound rang clear across the shore, and she began to sing. Not a quiet song, not a careful one, a victory song. I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea. Exodus 15 verse 1. Others joined, voices layered, thousands of them, a nation singing at once. The sound rolled like thunder across the water. The boy had never heard worship before. Not like this. Not desperate prayers whispered in slavery. This was different. This was joy, wild, untamed. Men dancing, women spinning, children laughing, sand kicked into the air, tambourines ringing, the sound of chains breaking inside their souls. The Lord is my strength and my song, and he has become my salvation. Exodus 15 verse 2. The boy sang too, even though he didn't know all the words. He just shouted whatever came out, because something inside him had burst open. God wasn't just a story from his father anymore, not just a distant promise. God was real, powerful, terrifying, faithful. He had seen the sea obey him, and once you see that, you can never be the same. But miracles fade faster than memory, and songs don't last forever. By midday, the dancing slowed. By evening, the voices were hoarse. And by the next morning, the desert returned, endless, dry, empty, no sea, no enemies, no pillars moving, just sand, heat, silence. 3 days they walked, 3 days without water, no streams, no wells, no shade. The same sun that once warmed them now burned. Children stopped talking, lips cracked, feet blistered. The boy's little sister stumbled often. His father carried her when he could, but he was weakening too. Freedom had a cost, and thirst was merciless. Finally, someone shouted, "Water!" They ran, all of them. Hope is exploding again. A pool ahead, shimmering under the sun. They fell to their knees and drank, then spit it out instantly. Bitter, rotten, undrinkable. Despair crashed down harder than before, because this time, there was no army, no sea, no miracle, just slow death. And the whispers started again, the same whispers from before. Maybe Egypt wasn't so bad. At least we had water. Why did God bring us out here to die? The boy felt the fear returning, not the fear of soldiers, but something worse. The fear that God only shows up for the big moments and disappears for the small ones. Which is harder, trusting God when seas split, or trusting him when nothing happens? They turned toward Moses again, but this time, their eyes weren't angry. They were tired, and tired faith is the most fragile faith of all. Moses stared at the bitter water, silent. Then he cried out to the Lord, not loudly, not dramatically, just honestly, because leaders don't always have answers. Sometimes they only have prayers. God showed him a piece of wood, nothing special, just a branch, dead, dry, meaningless, unless God says otherwise. Moses threw it into the water. The surface rippled, changed, cleared. The smell vanished. The boy scooped some into his hands, drank, sweet, fresh, alive. Then the Lord made for them a statute and a rule, and there he tested them. Exodus 15 verse 25. Tested, not abandoned, not forgotten. Tested. The boy swallowed slowly and understood something new. The sea proved God's power, but the desert would prove their faith. Because the covenant isn't only written in blood, it's proven in trust. And far ahead, beyond dunes, beyond heat waves, a mountain waited, dark, jagged, wrapped in clouds, like something ancient slept on its peak. And none of them knew yet. That fire would soon fall from that mountain. That heaven would speak. That the covenant would be carved not only in blood, but in stone. And that the same people who sang today, "I will tremble tomorrow." The boy stared at the distant peak, a strange feeling tightening his chest. Not fear, not excitement, something heavier, like destiny calling. And thunder rolled faintly across the sky, even though there were no clouds. The mountain did not look welcoming. It looked alive. Dark stone rose like the spine of the earth itself, jagged and severe, its peak swallowed by restless clouds. No bird circled it. No animals grazed near it. Even the wind avoided it. The boy walked beside his father and kept staring. Something about it made his chest tight. Not fear exactly. Something heavier, like standing outside the door of a king you've never seen, but somehow now already sees you. The pillar of the cloud moved straight toward it. That was enough. If God was going there, they would follow. Thousands spread across the plain at the mountain's base, setting up tents in uneven rows. Fires sparked to life. Children gathered sticks. Mothers kneaded dough. It almost felt normal, almost peaceful. But the mountain loomed over everything. Watching, waiting. The boy couldn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he thought he saw light flicker near the summit, like lightning trapped inside stone. Before dawn, the ground trembled, soft at first, like distant footsteps, then stronger. Pebbles rolled down slopes. Cups rattled. The boy sat up. What is that? Then it came. Thunder. But there were no clouds overhead. The sound rolled down the mountain like a drumbeat from heaven. Boom, boom, boom. The entire camp woke at once. People stepping outside, looking up, and then fire. Not spreading fire, not burning brush. Fire descending. Flashes of light crawling through the clouds like veins of molten gold. Smoke rising thick and black. The mountain burned with fire to the heart of heaven. Deuteronomy 4 verse 11. The air changed. Heavy. Charged. Breathing felt difficult. Like oxygen itself feared what was happening. The boy grabbed his mother's hand. Is it him? She couldn't answer, because every instinct said yes. This wasn't a messenger, not an angel, not a sign. This was God, coming down. The Lord descended upon Mount Sinai in fire. Exodus 19 verse 18. The earth quaked violently now. People fell to their knees. Children cried. Animals screamed and broke their ropes. Smoke swallowed the peak. Lightning tore the sky open again and again. And then, a sound. Not thunder, not wind. A trumpet. Long, deep, unnatural. It grew louder, and louder, and louder. But no one was blowing it. It sounded like the sky itself was calling them forward. The boy covered his ears, but it vibrated inside his chest, inside his bones, as if something ancient was summoning their souls. Moses walked through the camp. Calm. Again calm. How is he always calm? Prepare yourselves, he said. Washington, consecrate. Do not approach the mountain unless called. His voice was firm, because this wasn't a celebration like the sea. This wasn't dancing. This was holiness. And holiness was dangerous. Borders were marked. Stones stacked to form boundaries. No one allowed past them. Not man. Not a beast. Whoever touches the mountain shall surely be put to death. Exodus 19 verse 12. The boy stared. Death for touching a mountain. He didn't understand. Until he felt it. That weight in the air. That pressure. Like standing too close to lightning. Some things are not meant to be approached casually. Some things burn. Morning came, but the sun barely pierced the smoke. The trumpet sounded again. Longer this time. The ground is shaking in rhythm. Then, silence. Complete. Absolute. Even the fire seemed to pause. And from the mountain, a voice, not heard with ears alone, felt, like the sky speaking through your ribs. I'm the Lord your God. The words rolled across the plain, like thunder wrapped in language. Who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Exodus 20 verse 2. The boy collapsed to his knees instantly. Everyone did. No one told him to. You don't stand when eternity speaks. Command after command followed, each one striking like a hammer. You shall have no other gods before me. The air vibrated. You shall not make idols. Lightning split the sky. You shall not take my name in vain. The ground shook. Honor your father and mother. Do not murder. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. Do not covet. Each word is heavier than stone. This wasn't a suggestion. This wasn't advice. This was a law carved into reality itself. Not written on paper. Written into conscience. The boy trembled. Not because the commands were cruel, but because they were right. Too right. They pierced straight through him, exposed every selfish thought he'd ever had, every lie, every moment of jealousy. How can anyone stand innocent before a voice like that? When the last word faded, the people cried out together, "Let not God speak with us, lest we die." Because they finally understood something terrifying. Deliverance is beautiful, but holiness is overwhelming. Grace rescues you. Truth exposes you. Moses alone stepped forward into the smoke, into the fire, into the darkness where God was. The boy watched him disappear, swallowed by clouds. And for 40 days, he did not return. At first, the people waited. Then they worried. Then they whispered. Then they doubted. Because time erodes faith faster than fear. Day 10, day 20, day 30. No Moses, no voice, no fire, just silence and sand. The same people who had seen the sea split, now restless, impatient, scared. The boy overheard men arguing near the tents. What if he's dead? What if God abandoned us? We need something we can see. Something we can see. Those words spread like infection. Because invisible faith is hard. Visible idols are easy. And then, the unthinkable began. Gold, jewelry, earrings, melted, poured, shaped. The boy watched in confusion as metal hardened into the form of a calf. A statue. Small, shiny, powerless. Yet people stared at it like it could breathe, like it saved them. This is your God, O Israel. Exodus 32, verse 4. The words hit like poison. After everything, after the blood, after the sea, after the fire, after the voice, they chose this. The boy's stomach twisted. How could they forget so fast? How could humans witness miracles and still trade glory for metal? Music started. Dancing. Not worship. Something darker. Something hollow. The mountain still smoked above them. God is still present. And yet, they bowed to gold. The greatest irony in history. Covenant offered by the Creator, replaced by a statue made by slaves. The boy looked toward the mountain, and suddenly, thunder rolled again, louder than before, angrier, lightning flashing violently inside the cloud. No celebration this time. Judgment. Something was about to break. And far above, inside the fire, Moses stood holding 2 tablets of stone, words carved by the finger of God, unbreakable, eternal, sacred. And he was walking back down toward a people already breaking the covenant they had just sworn to keep. The boy felt dread crawl up his spine, because some sins don't whisper. They shout, and heaven was about to answer. The mountain still burned. Fire crawled through the clouds like veins of living light. Thunder muttered in the stone like restrained fury. And Moses descended alone, step by step, 2 tablets of stone in his arms. Heavy, not just in weight, in meaning. The boy saw him first, a small silhouette against smoke. Then others noticed. Look, Moses. Whispers spread. Relief flickered through the camp. He's alive. God didn't take him. But the relief died quickly, because something was wrong. Moses wasn't smiling. He wasn't waving. He wasn't calling out. He moved like a man carrying grief, like someone returning from a funeral. Joshua followed behind him, breathless. Then Joshua stopped suddenly. "What does that sound?" he asked. "It sounds like war in the camp." Moses didn't answer, because he could hear it too. Not war. Worse. Music. Wild. Unholy. Drums. Shouting. Laughter that didn't belong to free people, but to people forgetting everything they'd seen. They crested the ridge, and the camp came into view. Fires blazing. Men dancing. Women spinning. Gold flashing. And at the center, the calf. Small. Shiny. Mocking heaven. For a moment, Moses didn't move. Didn't breathe. Didn't speak. The boy would remember that moment forever, because the strongest man he had ever known. It looked broken, not angry first. Broken, as if his heart had collapsed inward. 40 days with God, 40 nights on fire, receiving words carved by the finger of the Almighty. And below, this is your God, O Israel. The phrase drifted through the air like poison. Something inside Moses changed. Not rage, not yet. Something deeper. Holy sorrow. Because betrayal always hurts more than enemies ever could. Enemies attack from outside. But this came from their own hearts. The tablets trembled in his hands. Stone etched with light. The covenant. The promise. The law. Everything God had spoken. Given freely. And the people hadn't even waited. Not even 40 days. They couldn't trust an invisible God. So they built one they could carry. The boy watched Moses' shoulders rise and fall. Once. Twice. Then, with a cry that sounded torn straight from his soul, Moses hurled the tablets downward. They smashed against the rocks. The stone exploded, fragments scattering like shattered trust. The sound echoed across the valley like thunder. The dancing stopped. Music died instantly. Silence crashed down, because everyone understood what it meant. The covenant, broken, before it was even delivered. And he threw the tablets out of his hands and broke them at the foot of the mountain. Exodus 32, verse 19. The boy felt cold, not from the wind, from the truth. They had destroyed something sacred, and now there would be a cost. Moses walked straight into the camp. No one dared block him. He went to the calf. I stared at it. This ridiculous statue that dared replace the God of fire and sea. Then, he seized it, dragged it to the flames. Gold melting again, warps bending. The idol collapsed in a liquid shame. He ground it to powder, scattered it on the water, forced them to drink it. Because sin isn't just forgiven. Sometimes you must taste how bitter it is. Then he turned to Aaron, his own brother. What did these people do to you? Moses demanded, voice shaking. That you have brought such a great sin upon them. Aaron's answer was weak, fearful, excuses. They told me, make us gods, so I threw the gold in the fire. And out came this calf. Out came this calf. As if evil just happens by accident. As if disobedience creates itself. Moses closed his eyes. Because leadership meant watching even the strong fall. Chaos rippled through the camp. Some are still rebellious. Some are terrified. Some weeping. The line between life and death is suddenly very thin. Whoever is for the Lord, come to me. Moses shouted. Only one tribe stepped forward. The Levites. Not perfect, not brave, just willing. Sometimes that's all God asks. Judgment moved swiftly through the camp. Not cruel, not random, precise. Because covenant is not a game. Holiness is not decoration. It is life or death. And that day, the people learned something Egypt never taught them. Freedom without obedience becomes destruction. When it ended, smoke rose. Grief hung heavy. No dancing now. No shouting. Only the sound of people realizing how close they had come to losing everything. But Moses wasn't finished. Because anger wasn't the final word. Intercession was. That night, while the camp slept in sorrow, Moses climbed the mountain again. Alone. Into the fire. Into the cloud. Into the presence that had terrified everyone else. The boy watched him go and whispered, "Why would he go back?" His father answered softly, "Because he loves us." On the mountain, Moses fell on his face and prayed words no leader had ever dared pray. "Oh, these people have sinned a great sin. Yet now, if you will forgive their sin." Silence. The fire crackled. Then Moses said something that shook heaven itself. "But if not, blot me out of your book which you have written." Exodus 32, verse 32. "Take me instead. Let me die for them." The boy didn't hear those words, but history did, because for the first time, someone offered to stand between God's judgment and guilty people. A shadow, a glimpse, of a greater sacrifice yet to come. God answered, not with destruction, with mercy, not erasing consequences, but refusing to erase his promise. Covenant was not canceled, because the covenant wasn't built on human perfection. It was built on God's faithfulness. "Behold, my presence shall go with you, and I will give you rest." Exodus 33, verse 14. Morning came, and Moses descended again, this time carrying new tablets, fresh stone, fresh carving, same law, same promise. Because God rewrites what we break. That is mercy, but something was different. The boy shielded his eyes. Moses' face glowed, not fire, not light from outside, light from within, like he had carried heaven inside his skin. The people stepped back in fear, because anyone who stands near God come back changed, radiant, unmistakable. The covenant was restored, not because they deserved it, but because God refused to let his promise die. And the boy finally understood. The blood on the doorposts, the sea split open, the voice on the mountain, the broken tablets, the mercy given again. It was never about their strength, never about their goodness, never about their worthiness. It was always about him, a God who keeps promises even when his people don't. A covenant, written in blood, sealed in fire, and guarded by mercy stronger than judgment. Years later, the boy would grow old, tell this story to his children, then their children, and every time he spoke of that night in Egypt, of the sea, of the mountain, his voice would tremble, because he knew something they didn't yet know. One day, far in the future, another covenant would come, not written on stone, not sealed with lambs, but written in blood again, once, forever. And this time, nothing would ever break it. But that is another story. Thank you so much for spending your precious time with us today. Remember, every moment you invest in the Word of God is never wasted. What you see, hear, and meditate on has the power to transform your life, strengthen your faith, and deepen your understanding of His promises. If this story has inspired you, uplifted your spirit, or stirred your heart, make sure to subscribe to the Word of Eternity channel so you never miss these powerful biblical stories. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. Your engagement helps spread the light of God's Word to others who need encouragement, hope, and faith today. Stay blessed, stay encouraged, and remember, God's promises are unbreakable, and His Word is eternal.